Hey guys, it's the Birb here. I'm down here to, well, after a little birdie told me that some people want to learn some Guardian. I know the game has been out for a while, but seems that for the more basic controls and such, it can be a little bit more complicated than it seems, especially for me when I first started playing. But I wanted to specifically talk about steel guard and guard counters today. First, we'll go over steel guard. The first thing you need to know is how to, well, guard. Regularly, it would be if you have another weapon in your hand, let's say, it'd be swinging with it, just doing a regular light attack with it. However, instead, what you're going to do, once you have the shield, is you're just going to hold it. And this will put you into the guard, just a regular guard stance, not steel guard. You'll see that you'll be able to kind of walk around in all directions, and you'll be holding up the shield. But to get into steel guard, you want to hold the shield and then dash in a direction. You'll be able to tell that you're in steel guard because you'll be moving slower and you'll be in this type of defensive stance. First, you want to always be targeted though when you're doing this, as when you are not, this is what will end up happening. You'll just kind of be dodging in different directions going into steel guard, which I mean is okay, but when you're targeted on an enemy, it becomes a lot easier to control. So when you hold block and dodge, now you'll be first targeting your foe, so being able to block a lot easier, but also you have control in what directions that you need to block from. So you can block forward, backwards. You can go into this stance at really any point, because in most cases you don't always want to be in steel guard, as you are. Generally, this is supposed to be used as a defensive and blocking tool. Make sure you take either no damage or little damage. But what you can do against this is backwards, go into it backwards, go into it sideways, forwards, the front. You can do it any real direction. You just have to be careful though, when you're especially closer to enemies, as you will still do a very similar mechanic of if you didn't have anything targeted and you were just kind of going a direction, as it tries to make your direction. Sometimes it'll be nice and do it like this, but again, other times, as you saw before, it will kind of put you in a weird spot where you'll be kind of blocking in a weird direction, and that will usually let you get hit through your steel guard, as you aren't really blocking that direction. Instead, you're more just blocking this way. But to showcase this against an enemy, we'll use this guy. So once again, you're going to hold block, and you're going to do this. Sometimes, if the enemy gets too close inside of your model, they will hit you, but generally you shouldn't really have to worry about that too much. Again, you can block forward, it'll block his hits. Block backwards, block to the side. Again, you have to be careful, because that would get you hit if you're not fast enough, as you saw right there. So I would recommend usually blocking forward or blocking backwards or going to steel guard when you do this. Once again, you have to be actually in this slower stance that slowly drains your stamina, but makes it so any hits that you take from your block eat a lot less stamina. As when you regularly hold the block, as you can see, it eats a lot more stamina when you just take regular blocks. But you do have to realize that when you're in this, it'll still regenerate stamina when you're holding block like this. As this is just a regular block. But again, especially larger enemies, they will eat through your whole stamina bar in one hit if you're just doing regular blocks like this. That's why Guardian has a special steel guard, which will make little hits turn into basically nothing. do always have to watch your stamina, but generally you'll be doing a lot better in Steel Guard as your guard boost goes up by a large amount. So that's what his passive kind of bumps up. And now that you know how to, get into Steel Guard, as well as just block in general, we'll also go over guard counters. Especially if you want to do more damage as Guardian. Now, there's mainly two types of builds, which, you know, you can do a variety of builds in Night Rain. But there's mainly two types of builds that I've mainly seen other people do, and you can more of categorize them in. Which is usually either going more into tank or going into guard counters. But we'll kind of go into guard counters, at least for, not for the relics and such, but just how to do them. So here, you will need to, again, hold block, or you can go into Steel Guard, again, block, dodging in a direction. But you need to at least be at a minimum in block, and when you take a hit, you want to hit the strong attack button. Once you do that, you can guard counter. You have to do it relatively quickly after you take that hit, or what will happen is this. Well, that's the triple tap, but I'll show you that. A lot of the time, like you'll do that. You'll just do a regular strong attack, either like too early or too late. And you'll do something like that. And against larger enemies, that'll make you take a hit instead. Because not all enemies kind of get knocked to the side like this one does. But the regular guard counter, see, that's how to not do it, because you wait too long. Well, that is a triple tap, but... The regular guard counter is just a single tap of the weapon. Like that, like so. Again, you can do it from block as well, from regular block. But again, you're gonna have to watch your stamina. As you can see, doing a guard counter in itself eats quite a bit of stamina. But usually does quite a bit of damage and stance damage back to the enemy in return. So, however, when you hold a halberd specifically on Guardian, he can actually do a special guard counter, which is a triple tap that I've shown a couple times accidentally. just bird brain techniques, but generally what you'll do is either be in guard or be in Steel Guard. Again, you can do these in guard or Steel Guard. Though you'll take a lot less stamina, as if you have no stamina, you can't really do a guard counter in return. But generally try to do this in Steel Guard in most cases. This is a triple tap. You hold the strong attack button. Always hold the strong attack button if you're trying to go for the powerful guard counter. But that puts you in a longer animation, as you can see, but does more damage, more stance damage. So you have to be careful, especially against those who have a lot more stance to them. This will put you in a little bit of a weak position if you're not able to knock them down. But a lot of enemies will kind of either take quite a bit of stance damage, and especially with an ally nearby, it'll usually put them down. But one other thing you can kind of do with guard counters is a little special technique that doesn't really have a lot of uses, but sometimes can be used mainly for mobility. As the guard counter itself, at least the charged one, has some distance to it compared to the regular one. Of course, you have a long range reach as you're using a halberd, of course, a longer weapon, but it has some reach, as you can see. You'll dash towards your enemy. So it gives you time that even if you get hit something by like a farther weapon, you can still dash over. What you can also do, a little trick, is that you can take a that and then untarget your enemy. That one I kept him targeted, but that's why you have to do it without target him, and you can kind of send yourself a different direction. You can do that. Doesn't have usually a lot of uses. However, this triple tap with halberds, which I can show in another video, can actually, those attacks all can be used on an ally. So you can use an enemy as basically a faster reviving pool, as these 3 triple tap hits can be aimed, especially if, let's say, there's an ally behind you or something like that. You can use that to turn around and hit them 3 times instead. So you can use the enemy as just a faster reviving pool, not counting other relic effects and stuff as well. And that's mainly about it, at least for the basics of the guard counters. However, I wanted to go over a little bit more when it comes to other weapons, as you won't always be finding the perfect halberds. Of course, you can go and upgrade the basic halberd throughout your run, but generally you'll find other weapons. And for one who's played a lot of Guardian myself, as the Birb, I recommend getting used to other weapons. So some, like the halberd, of course, can be used with guard counters, but also they can be used to shield poke. So when you're in either in regular guard or in steel guard, you can poke with your halberd while still keeping up your stance, especially against larger foes who don't get immediately kind of like stunned a little bit when they take hits. This guy will take little, take stunned hits, well, that just won't. And that's where you can kind of get some chip damage in while you're keeping up your block. And this can work for other weapons and not for others. For like colossals like this, you can't do that. You're just going to go for regular swings, which is still okay. Again, colossals have high stance damage, but since you have those guard counters in the first place, making use of them is good. But if you don't have access to those weapons and you find a better one that's like a colossal, then you just kind of have to get used to that you don't really have any poking tools you can do, as you'll just do regular attacks. However, you can still do guard counters with any other weapons, like so. You won't get the triple tap that you do specifically with the halberds, but guard counters with any weapons really works. You just have to be careful of the reach, as some don't have a lot of reach. And other weapons beyond the halberd can also be used through shield poking, mainly spears and other thrusting weapons. But as an example, there's like a thrusting sword you may see a lot of the time it has like holy properties or something. And again, you can use it to just kind of stab them through your shield and get some poke in. And just use another example of one that you can. Again, you can use a spear to jab them through. These have a little bit more reach and such, and of course can be guard countered. Some of them are a lot faster on guard counters than others. Also to use this one as well. This one has a fast one, but I just have a little bit more slower. As you can see, you have a little bit more of a delay before you go for that strike. That's okay. As long as you know a little bit more of enemies' kind of attack strings, you'll learn over time that you can kind of block and guard counter a lot of things. Not too much of a problem. You can even do it with like simple daggers as well, though it won't really have as much use. Right. Like, they didn't even knock the guy down in the first attack. I mean, of course it's a dagger, but it shows that some are maybe a little bit more useful for doing guard counters than others. And beyond that, that's mainly it for the guard counters and such. I can show other things in other videos, but hopefully that is a little bit of a tip that the Birb can show you on how to at least start your venture on being part of the flock. Many of the other Birbs flying in the sky. Good luck out there, flying around.